All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Cool. How's the volume of the music? I've started using Streamlabs now, so totally new setup. All the software and stuff. It's pretty much the same because it's OBS, but I don't know how the volume is with the music and things like that. So let me know. I had to basically start all that from scratch. Yeah, cool, nice. I added some compression and stuff to the mic. Hopefully it's a little bit clearer than it was in the last one. Got a few interesting things that I want to take a look at, build. Made some improvements to the stream. There's now, across the top, latest follower. I realized that on the last stream when people followed and things, there was no acknowledgement of that happening. So the corner up here, you'll see follow, there'll be the little zombie. It's all default at the moment because I'm just doing one improvement every stream, and at the moment that was Streamlabs. Next stream I'll actually like start to make some improvements with the animations and try and make it but what I've got today is paracord. I'm going to try and have a go at turning a couple of USB cables into custom ones. Unfortunately, my connectors still haven't arrived from overseas, but in the meantime I can try and make something work with what I've got. I did manage to pick up USB-A connectors. I've also got a gimbal that I was thinking about playing with. Show off the dog, cat. Little a window in the corner that I can turn on, and if the cat was actually somewhere. Oh, look at that! That's what I'm talking about. Finally, we have that now. I'll have to increase the size of my Streamlabs so I can actually see what the notification. Stash Builds Boards, thanks for following. Cool. There's some other things I was going to check out later on in the stream after we've had a look at cables and things like that. I have a cheeky Game Boy over here that my father-in-law has let me hold on to. I'm going to throw some batteries in it and see if it turns on. And some vintage Alps keyboards. I say keyboards because it's fun. Doing well, Stash. Alright. Move that out of the way. So you might be wondering why I've got pen and paper out. I was going to look at the pinout diagrams and stuff. I was going to look at the pinout diagrams and things for aviation connectors, so I can make sure that I get it right. I wanted to write down what the wiring numbering was going to be so that you could see it on the video as well, but also so that I could keep track of it, because unlike with an actual USB connector, USB-C or USB-A or otherwise, you actually, with those, you need to make sure that you're wiring to the correct pads or pins. That's what's actually coming out of or into the device, out of the host or into the device. But with your aviator connectors, kind of up to you how you do that wiring. So I wanted to make sure that whatever I decide to do today, since this is the first cable that I'm going to make, that I stick to that, having that written down. Taking these things apart is there's a little trick to it. You unscrew the, I guess the clamping ring, the part that actually seals them together, so part. That's what allows you to pull apart the two halves of the connector. But if you want to actually go in and wire them, I thought that I would show how to open these up, because someone the other day on Facebook sent me a message and asked me if they can send me their cable and I'd repair it. One of the things that they said was they didn't know how to take it apart. And it's actually kind of tricky because there isn't really any clear seam or anything. It looks like this is all one unit. There's some screws on the back here that you can take out, which will unclamp the, I guess, the smaller diameter where the wiring goes in. But once you take that off, there really isn't anything obvious. It's not like there's a seam or anything for you to go through. Apparently the mic's cutting out a little bit. It might have something to do with the compressor that I added. Let me have a look. Let me know in chat if the mic does end up cutting out, because it might have something to do with when I'm raising or lowering my voice. Probably just need to speak more consistently at the same level. So the trick to actually getting them apart is to put them together and then not take the sheath off and spin them. What you'll actually end up unthreading the core, and that is where the pins are for you to solder your wires on. And normally, this one is, you won't really be able to see it on camera, it'd be pretty hard to show you, but next to the pins there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So the way that you basically would wire these in is you would decide what you're going to wire into each pin, and just stick to that for all of your cables, and that way they'll all be consistent, and you won't be running power into ground and shorting out your devices. Now the trick is getting the other half to come out. Basically what you have is these two butt ends that are like your cable protectors to protect the join, and then two halves that actually have the pin that you would solder it onto. Now the challenge is actually being able to pull them apart, so I have to sort of like screw it on a little bit. And try to much force pull them up, and just out part that you're actually doing wiring to. Okay, so talking to, alright. Yeah, I can see it cutting out now. Alright, cool. Let me try and see how to adjust the filters for that. Thanks for following, Jacob Gurman 672. Just playing with my Streamlabs settings, trying to adjust the. I think I have to try and adjust the noise gate, change the threshold, the close threshold. I probably could turn the noise gate off, and then I can turn it back on if the background noise is bad. That's probably a smarter move. Let's do that. Alright, cool. So now I can see, like, what's happening basically is my mic is activating more often even when I'm not talking. You'll just hear, let me know if there's like a slight amount of background noise. I could use a screwdriver. That is a very astute observation by my brain just now. But this actually fits perfectly. Feel free to ask me anything about keyboard builds, cables, coding, PCs, Star Wars. Pfft. Alright. Baked mango. It is currently 10 past 2 in the afternoon in Melbourne, Australia. Let me know, like I said, I turned off the noise compression filter in Streamlabs. It's a trade-off between the mic sometimes cutting out while I'm talking, or you possibly hearing a little bit of background noise. So I'm hoping that the music kind of balances out the background noise. But call it out and I can try and play with the settings on the compression filter. Oh yeah. That does also mean that you will be able to hear my dog. Alright. I'll have to move this muesli bar. D+, it's your positive data line. So you've got your ground connection, your positive data, your negative data, and your power connection. So positive and negative power, positive and negative data. And the idea is that you want to wire these into the corresponding pads / pins, which you can find. Pretty much every connector has a specific name, and you can find that name. Often the connector will have some code or something written on it, and you can Google what that connector's pinout diagram is, and then all you want to do is wire the pins from your USB-C end all the way through to your USB-A end. And this is the reason why like your keyboard cables and stuff don't have other advanced features of USB-C. As far as I know, I'm pretty sure that full spec cables have more than just these cords, but I could be wrong. This is just what I know about making a custom cable for a keyboard. I've been talking to some local makers lately. I'll do this while I'm talking and chatting and stuff, but I've been talking to some local makers lately. Got a couple of things trying to make happen. Looking at maybe making key sets and things like that. But one person in particular, a Melbourne person who has access to a CNC machine, was working with me on some designs to do a switch mod station. And I posted a photo up on Instagram this morning. I thought I would just share it with you. Yeah, I think it's sort of something I've been thinking about for a little while now, but the idea that I had originally was just a ramp with a flat edge at the top for your tools. It wasn't very complicated, it wasn't really much more than what's already on the market, just with a space for your tools basically. And then he went and dialed it up to 9,000. The idea is that it would be like a wooden frame with a front and back panel that you can remove with magnets, position them wherever you want them basically, and then mod all of your switches and have all your tools, springs and film and everything all in one space. Hopefully we can get a prototype for this soon and I can have that on my desk on the camera. Hopefully, I'm thinking the footprint sounds like it'd be about this big. Alright. Where's my wires? My cables. I'm torn between doing the cable stuff now or having a look at the keyboards now. Who's in the chat? What do you want to look at? Do you want me to... Should I make a cable now? Or do you want to have a quick look at some of the vintage keyboards that I managed to pick up last night? The reason you're probably wondering, like, why is he just grabbing an Xbox controller out? One of the cables that I want to make, I want to turn... I need to slow down. I realize after I've said a couple of lines that I've just spoken really quickly. The reason... Oh, Mr. Petrov, thanks for following. The reason that I grabbed out the Xbox controller is because... coincidentally, it's quite a nice match for the blue paracord that I bought. And I want to see if I can turn this micro USB cable into a custom for this controller. So that's one thing that I wanted to do today. The other thing that I wanted to try and do was see if I can somehow take a USB cable that I have this USB cable that I cut the connector off attempting to make a cable, and unfortunately that connector wasn't reusable. But I have a cable that's fairly long and a USB-C cable that works, which I don't need. And I think that I should be able to cut off the USB-A connector, wire that to one end of the aviator, and then take the other USB cable, wire it to this side of the aviator, and have a USB-C cable for Curo socks. That at least was that was part of the plan today. So basically the poll at the moment, I can't see the options for the poll, but cables or vintage Keeb, what sounds good? Oh, poll concluded? Ah, true. Alright, cool. Cables. Cables. What I need a mat. So before, when I was doing the keyboard right, you could just solder on the keyboard, but now I would be soldering on this. What can I get to solder on? I have an old mouse pad, a silicon mouse pad. I wonder if that might be the thing to go with. Give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna see if I can grab something to protect this desk mat. Surprise, surprise. Bam. Helen happens to have one of these. Is that doing funky things on the camera? Or is that just on Streamlabs? Maybe if I just don't move it, it'll be fine. Soldering pad into keymod station. Yeah, like, so you've got your keymod station and it's got your switch mod station, and then at the back it has the panel with your lubes, brushes, tweezers, logo, key cracker, switch cracker, tray for all your switches, front tray for your springs and your films, and then another tray for your keyboard that you're soldering, and then a side tray for your soldering iron and your sponge and your steel, your flux steel thingy, sponge. And then the left side for your drink holder and your stereo. Now that's a product. Let me know if the music changes volume or anything at any point. It moves between songs. They should all be hopefully the same volume though. Okay. Let's move that out of the way. Now the problem with making these cables, well, the thing that I think, so there's no guarantee basically is what I'm saying that this is going to work, because when I've tried to harvest a few cables in the past, they don't use colored wire, and so it would be a bit of a struggle to get my multimeter into those pinholes to actually be able to confirm which wire was which. But I figured the least we can do is try. Alright, now what direction am I doing this in? This is going to be from the aviator to the controller. Is that length good? It's probably good. Keep the aviator up on the end of the desk and still have space. Yeah, cool. That's actually not a bad idea. Take a little bit of wire and then just touch the wire to the pin inside the micro USB, and then touch that to the multimeter. Okay. Now I don't want to strip it, I want to cut it. Now before I do this, do we have any other micro USBs that we can obliterate? Because this is not a bad one. I don't want to just get rid of a bad, like, good one. Give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna grab a different USB cable if I can find one. Alright. What am I doing? At the moment I'm destroying a USB cable because I want to turn it into a custom, and I don't have any connectors to make them from fresh wire because they haven't arrived, even though I ordered them 2 months ago, which is fine because I can use spare cables and try to make some. And if you're wondering why I would want to make a custom cable, the idea is that I have a nice fancy blue Xbox controller, and I want to match the cable like that. as well as I'm hoping to try and run a group buy soon. Do a few cables for people at, you know, close to cost price basically, while I improve my skills, because this is actually the first time that I'm making a completely custom cable. So you're seeing it here for the first time. We can both learn together and make mistakes together. This one I was going to use for making the cable for Kuro, because this one actually has the good length. The other issue, oh, well, not the other issue, but the other thing I just remembered is my heat gun, unfortunately, the adapter that I have for it doesn't fit the power plug for the heat gun, even though this says universal power plug. So I'm gonna have to use a lighter to do the heat shrinking, which is why I wanted to start by doing my own cable, so that if it's a bit janky... Hey Rupert! If it's a bit janky, then I know not to do the other one today, and I can do that once the heat gun works, which would be tomorrow. I can pick up an adapter and get that going. So to start, I guess the first question, you can help me answer this, is what adapter end would I put on the device side? So with the aviator, there's two halves, right? The male and the female. Doing a heat gun RE cable is easy too. Right, there we go. Hales was just trying to translate what J. Kodge said because I didn't understand. Doing a heat gun recable is easy too? Oh! Okay, yeah, right. Yeah, schmort. That's some big brain 5 stuff right there. So you're saying, take my heat gun, cut off the end here, use a spare power cable, yep, from a kettle or something, and just wire it in, because it's just power and ground, right? Well, I might coil it if I can get my heat gun working. Alright, cool. So I can start by doing at least the device connector to the point where we need the heat shrink, and then maybe what we'll do is look at converting this to an Australian connector, and then all I have to do is plug it in under my desk, and we can get cracking. That's smart, thanks mate. I'm just reading chat, sorry. From inside the handle? Don't think I know what you mean. Oh, right, okay. You're talking about actually taking the unit apart. Yeah. I don't know, would there be any concern with just changing the plug? I mean, if you make sure that the two cables are... the heat shrink on the cables is protecting them from any connection, and they're not rubbing so that in the future they, you know, connect and short. I think it would be fine to do it that way, right? Oh, cool, Singapore, nice. I think if I was going to do that, I would like to go down to a hardware store and actually buy the Australian plugs that you can pull apart and access and wire it in, rather than just, you know, taking an existing plug, killing it, and then wiring it and heat shrinking the wires. I'd feel a little bit safer doing it properly. So if you live in Melbourne, feel free to go down to a Bunnings right now and just grab me one of those adapters, pop on over, and yeah, I'll do it on stream. And I'll give you a custom cable. I'm waiting for the message from JCodge, like, BRB on way to Bunnings. I'm not like, it is a joke, but I'm not joking. If there was someone in the chat who was like, oh, I've got a car and I'm free, custom cable sounds nice, I mean, I'll pay for the adapter. Let's see, I already have some paracord cut, but I'll cut some fresh one. Let me know if you want me to turn the pet cam on at some point. It is it's a weird setup. I've got my phone basically running Droid Cam over the Wi-Fi. And I'm just going to put it in my gimbal and just sort of stand the gimbal up around the house. If my cat decides to come out, I can point it down at the cat bed. That was the intention. She was there all morning, and then by the time I turned the stream on, she was gone. Better to go with more than less. No puppy. Mate, I'm so keen for you to pick up your test bench. I really want to see the... Oh wow, wire cutters work for paracord. I didn't even think of that. Until right now. Yeah, I'm really keen to see the prototype mod station. I've got some family and friends and some AUMK people's builds on the way, and I think all of mine, at least, I'm going to be doing the Switch modding. I think most of theirs I will be as well, and that was kind of like what spurred the whole question in the first place. Was I really wanted to have some... I wanted to get a Clavier one or a Laser Ninja one or something like that, and I was looking at the prices and availability and whatnot, and I just thought, oh well, maybe I can see if someone can make one. And then you picked up those switches from me, mentioned that you had the CNC, and then it kind of was just a, hey, let's see, let's sketch this out. It was like 11:45 or like midnight, maybe even later, when I sent you the sketch. And the sketch was, you can see the similarities, I'll say that much, but you've gone and taken it to the next level, man, and I'm really keen to see the prototype. So what I've just done is decord the paracord. Normally, what you would do is you would buy, if you were doing custom cables like this, you would buy coreless paracord 550, because this is pretty much waste at this point. I'll probably keep it in a bag or something, and then see... Oh, thanks for the follow, Keone. Appreciate it. Feel free to ask me any questions. Yeah, this is the core of the paracord, and it's pretty wasteful. I didn't know when I first bought this paracord about that you could buy cord or cordless. In retrospect, when I order them in the future, I'll make sure that I get cordless because, like I said, this is pretty much just waste. But what I'm thinking is I will put this in a bag, and I'm sure I've got a cousin who does a lot of arts and crafts stuff. I'm sure she'd be able to figure out something to do with that. My puppy is sitting right beside me, jumping up for attention, and I feel like I should at least attempt this pet cam. It's funny, I had it set up all morning perfectly above the cat's bed, and then right before I went live, she decided to get up and leave. Yeah, there's a doggo. You can probably hear her, like I imagine you can hear her when she's sooking beside me. Here we go. Bam! That is one effective puppy cam. I wonder if if that's like the thing that people click, like they're browsing and they're like, oh, is that a puppy? Give treats. You have claimed. I think you can only claim one of the pet feeding things per video per person, and I think there's a limit. If there isn't a limit, then I'm just gonna enforce a limit now. But her treats, the treats that we give her are actually just dog food, basically just really nice quality dog food. So we can give her lots and lots and lots of treats. I'll go get them. Turns out the mod, the editor Hales already has the treats. Are you looking, Donka? Oh, did she just get a treat and I missed it? Can she get another treat? Good dog. Yeah, so first attempt at doing the dog cam. I think that worked well. If you're just coming to the channel now, you haven't been here before, there is a giveaway command you can run. I'm going to give away one of these custom cables at 500 followers. I'm starting to think about things that I can do for 1,000 followers and that sort of stuff. The last 2 streams I gave away custom cables because those streams were part of the first build commission that I've streamed, so kind of wanted to celebrate that. I am prone to just like randomly wanting to thank people for joining, and I do have a lot of material to make cables with, so you never know. Another piece of advice when it comes to making custom cables, sorry, is this how braided cable are made? Yeah, basically, if you get a braided cable, usually what you're actually getting is a soft rubber shielding around your cores, which are the wire strands, and then on the outside of this is your tech flex or your paracord or whatever material the cable maker has chosen to use. Most cable makers, at least the custom keyboard cable makers, use paracord 550, which has an inner diameter of about 4 millimeters. So you need to make sure that whatever wire you're using is less than that, and obviously the tighter that tolerance, so the smaller the difference between the outer diameter of your USB wire and the inner diameter of your paracord, determines how tough the cord will feel in terms of flex, how much it maintains flex and things like that as well. But also the rubber of the cord affects that. So the reason this is taking a little bit more time than I would like it to is because that tolerance I just mentioned is fairly tight on this, the cord that I've chosen to use, but beggars can't be choosers. I did not have many options. I had hoped, so when you use a smaller diameter cable, say like a 3.4 millimeter, you've got enough space that you can basically just hold the paracord here and just gently feed the USB and it'll run through all the way on its own. But because the tolerance on this is so tight, I can't actually get it to go through at all. So instead what I have to do is sort of somewhat gently work the paracord over the USB cable. No, Rupert, there's no emails yet. Thanks, Hales, for answering. The emails will go out once I receive the connectors. At the moment, the problem that I'm having is I have the paracord, I have 200 meters of USB wiring, I have 60 aviators, but I don't have USB-A, USB-C, micro or mini USB connectors. And those are surprisingly hard to get. I asked I asked one of the other local makers yesterday if I could buy one, and they unfortunately also had none left. Which is why today we're using a harvested, perfectly fine, healthy USB cable, which normally I wouldn't do. Well, I mean, I would do it if I have to, that's exactly the scenario that I'm in, but normally I would just make the cable myself using fresh connectors. Let me know if the music is too quiet or too loud. My headphones don't really reflect what you're hearing on stream, so that I can hear myself talking, because I have a tendency to talk just a scooch on the loud side. Oh, the other thing, I just remembered why I have two aviators on the desk. So I have GX16 and GX12. GX16 are bigger. These are the thick connectors. Earlier on I was saying that most cable makers use paracord 550, but there are other paracord sizes as well. And so you can use these GX16 big thick connectors. You can sort of get a sense of how big it is in my hand, and I have a very large hand compared to, say, the GX12. So I had two questions for chat. The first question, well, I think I know what I want to do myself, but which one would you use? Which one would you choose for this cable build? The key differences between them. Did I miss them? Number 12. Let's do a poll real quick. Which one would you use, the GX12 or the GX16? The big thick one or the smaller one? And that's for this cable. It's hard when they're not all at level height. So, I think I know what I would do. I wonder why I can't see the poll. I can see that the poll is there, but how do I see? Ah, there we go. Ooh, two people saying big, one person saying small. So the GX12 is the small one, and the GX16 is the big one. So vote in the poll. Because I've seen a couple people say GX12, but I only see one for small and two for big. Yeah, I've never seen those polls before. But apparently at the top of chat. You know what else I have now? Which I didn't turn on? Chat box. Three and three, don't do me like this. Yeah, I've never seen polls done in Twitch before. Take it easy, J Coach, man. Thanks for coming along. Yeah, GMK white on black touch. This is the key set that I recommend. If you want to get into premium keycaps, just pick up this set. It's the cheapest GMK you'll be able to find. It's readily available on drop.com all the time. Not a sponsor. And yeah, you get the touching typing experience of GMK without the ridiculous heart-stopping price tag. Yeah, 50-50. Alright, cool. So, what I was going to say was what I would do, or what I would recommend in this case. You'd go, Miacon said it right, you would go with the smaller connector because you have the smaller cable, and you want the diameter of the connector butt to be as close as practical to the diameter of the paracord, basically. So what I was saying before about there being different sizes of paracord, paracord 550 is the most common, but if you wanted to make a big thick cable with big thick coils and big thick GX16 connectors, then you'd go with a higher size paracord. And if I remember correctly, the paracord number, paracord 550 for example, is something to do with, I don't think it's the diameter, it might be to do with how many like strands it has or the tensile strength or something like that. Oh, you like the rings? Thank you. This this ring is from my partner, my fiance. It's not an engagement ring though. It's a Batman ring. It's my cheeky little way of being a complete geek at work. And the other two, I have a Stormtrooper ring. And this ring belonged to my late father. Alright. So, not going to go with the thick one, because you were divided, so dealer's choice. The other question that I had was, which end would you put the male or female connector for the actual aviator that we're going to use? I thought about this the other day, and I think I'd rather have the male side sitting on the desk if I was going to swap out. I sort of asked the question originally because I don't actually know if there's a standard. Like, is there some agreed standard for which one of these two connectors should be attached to the device and sort of moved around with the device, and which end should stay on the desk? So really the question is, which side for the host and which side for the device? You're helping me make my first custom cable, and I'm enjoying it a lot. Male on the keyboard side, so when it is live, it is more difficult to be shorted. So you're saying that the cable that should be sitting on the desk, which is connected to USB at all times, should be the male end? No, you're saying the female end. So if we have the female end on the side with the host, yep. Cool. I was thinking the same thing. I wasn't sure if it mattered, but I was conscientious of the fact that if you have this male one, right, with those pins, so that's pretty big, that's pretty well exposed. It would not be very hard at all for even a little screw like this to go in there. And then you're gonna have a bad time. I might have to look at putting a background or something behind the chat. Alright, let's get this going. Changing the song.
That is not the way we leave the table. Hey, come on. Talk to me.
Yeah, I think part of the appeal is not just the swag factor, not just having it on the desk, that little bit of bling, but I would also struggle. I mean, I've had these for sort of a week now, sitting on my desk and around my desk waiting to do some cables with them. And I do constantly just sit there whenever I'm in meetings and run the, just spin the rings, pulling them apart and stuff. Alright, so my paracord is just a touch too long. I'll have to cut a little bit off, and then we have to heat shrink this end, which is going to stop our paracord from sliding back up. We have to cut a little bit of paracord off first, and then make sure we do the ordering of the shielding and stuff correctly. Otherwise you end up soldering things together and you can't get the parts on. So what am I missing? I need to grab my heat shrink. Now there was some advice on what size the heat shrink was. I don't know if anyone here has made cables before. Maybe they know the correct heat shrink size. I think beggars can't be choosers, and I'll just have to go with what makes sense. Basically, what makes sense is whatever fits over the USB, right? That's probably going to shrink down to be the right size, I think. I think you want 2:1. If I remember correctly, I think you want 2:1. And I don't know what this is. But part of this, the reason that I'm making this for myself is, it doesn't matter if I mess it up. It doesn't matter if the heat shrink looks a bit janky. It's not going to leave this house. And I can make another one. So I think I'll go with this. Although, if it's 2:1, it does have adhesive. But if it's 2:1, that's way too big, right? That said, I don't actually need to put... heat shrink on this end if the diameter of the shield is tight enough. And I can tell just from trying to hold the thing together, I don't actually think I would need it. That said, I do have one small enough, and it might just look better. Yeah, okay, that one will do. Alright, cool. So I have heat shrink for the connector end. I have heat shrink for the adapter end. Welcome back, Real Effects. Thanks for stopping by. Wish I had the heat gun thing sorted. I'm definitely gonna have to do that tomorrow. Let's fix the paracord. Actually, I wonder if I could just compress the paracord down. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll move the book out of the way. Hopefully the text underneath doesn't make that harder. Could also... no, it's gonna reflect. Cool. Isn't it about too long? The paracord, you mean? It was a little bit too long, but that was like fully stretched out, so I've just compressed it a little bit. I do have a hairdryer. I'm curious to know if it would get hot enough. I mean, I could just mute the mic and do it really quickly. Let's give it a go. Oh, the heat shrink's way too long. Yeah. I'm just going to cut off what I need. I need my... Can my editor please get me the Stanley knife? The box cutter. I spoke, while Helen is getting that for me, I spoke to a local artisan creator that joined the Australian Mechanical Keyboard Facebook group today. Well, they joined yesterday, sorry, but I spoke to them today. They offered to send me some samples of their artisans, and I'm very keen. I don't have much of a collection, but mostly I want to try and support other makers and show them on streams and stuff. And if anyone likes koi fish or brightly colored cast artisans, I can link you to that post. Too much? No, that's okay. I think that's good. What I do need is a lighter so I can burn off the excess paracord. There's like sort of frayed ends that you want to seal off with a lighter. Because paracord, I believe paracord's made out of a synthetic plastic or something like that. So when you light it, it's going to shrink down and seal up. Oh, wow, a metal baking tray. Okay, cool. So a metal baking tray, hit it with the hairdryer, put it over the thing, and that way you're not holding it. You can hold it back here or something, and just blast it with the hairdryer. That's smart. I'm going to do that on stream. I'll just mute my mic and we can do that. Give me 2 seconds. Put the tunes up for you, and I'll just grab a couple of things so we can get through. Alright, so I grabbed a tray. It's a bit ganky because we put volcanic rocks on it when we make sourdough in the oven. So it's a bit dirty because it's got salt of the earth on it. And I have a hairdryer. So we'll have a go at that in a minute, but I also remembered that I didn't test the pinout, the wiring, but thankfully, probably can't see it on the camera, but they are colored, so I don't have to do the testing, which is awesome. Now this, if I remember correctly, this was the piece that I used, that I cut, yep. Hey Kuro. I have a plate out because I'm going to use it for reflecting heat with the hairdryer because my heat gun has an American plug and I haven't converted it yet. I also, it's just occurred to me that there's writing on the heat shrink that I have. So I'm going to live with it because beggars can't be choosers. But I don't think I'm going to make any cables that I'm giving to anyone with these. Baking stream, yeah. That's actually, Hales, the editor for my channel, would definitely be interested in turning on a stream while she makes sourdough. Although that would be maybe slow. Just watching yeast rise. Alright, I'm gonna mute my mic, turn the tunes up, and just try and heat shrink this. I don't know about that technique. My puppy is very... That's the other thing, right? I don't think I like the technique because it was really hot against my fingers and it wasn't melting this. Maybe it's the heat shrink that's like too high temp. But my puppy also, I don't know if you noticed, but when I turned the hairdryer on, she kind of ran away. So I'm gonna go get a lighter, and we're just gonna do it with a lighter the way a lot of people tend to do it. That's the dab, by the way. I'm dabbing. I'm dabbing. So what I'm doing is I'm just melting it a little bit to get the adhesive inside to heat up and start to grab. And then I'm just correcting it just to make sure that if I can, it's even. So you can see I've shrunk it a little bit, but there's space on one side. So I'm rolling it over. Just getting that side to shrink down now. And now, it's hard to see, but it's fairly consistent, fairly even. Ooh, hydrated, alright. My nice Twitch water bottle. Ooh, mute my mic maybe. Thank you for that. It is important to stay hydrated. Yeah, so maybe the size of this one had to be big enough for the connector, but I think it's going to warp around the paracord. Careful, don't burn yourself. I'm less concerned about burning myself, and I'm more concerned about burning the paracord, to be honest. No puppy. Okay. For my first attempt, I'm happy with that. Given that it is labeled heat shrink. So you can see the labeling there. Cool. Now, what were we talking about? We were saying mail for the device. No puppy. Feed my puppy. She is mad. So the other thing we were going to do was we were going to heat shrink this, just because it might make a more flush. Oh, actually, maybe not. Do I have even... If I had thinner heat shrink, I could fit it through the adapter. Oh, that's way too tight. Alright, that's not going to happen. We'll just go straight through, like this. So what we're going to end up with is essentially a detachable end to let me use my Xbox controller. Very schmick. Don't need the multimeter. Don't need to cut off any excess cable. I do need to seal this though. Which side removes? I always forget. And this is why you should test. Nice. Maybe, what are we dealing with? Yeah, more than that. Ooh, okay. So we have red, grey, white, and green. I'm guessing that red's power, grey is ground, white and green are data positive and negative. Anybody familiar with wire coloring? Manufacturer has chosen to use not black for ground. But I'm pretty sure that white and green are common for data in and out. I think white is data in positive data, and I think green is negative data. Yeah, LTT. Alright, let's go with it. Okay, strip the wires. Interesting. So the manufacturer has chosen to use a thicker gauge power line, and then smaller gauge for the data lines, and big gauge for the ground. The 200 meters of cable that I have is all the same gauge. I tried for ages to find something that had this multi-spec cable core stuff. Everything was basically just the same gauge. Just going to double check that I didn't confuse the parts. Nope, good. Now, if you were here at the start of the stream, you would have seen me write this down. I wrote this down so that every time I make these, I can double check that the numbers that I am soldering the cables to match every time. It's important that if you get cables from one cable maker or another cable maker, that they both adhere to the same pinout pattern. Otherwise, if they were to swap two of these around for some reason, because it's the every adapter, they can do whatever they want, right? If they decide to match their cables in a certain way that does not match mine, or your two cables, for example, you could do damage, significant damage to whatever your device is, or to your computer. Normal for fast charge, higher gauge, higher amp output, needed for fast charge devices. Yeah, cool. Many don't. You can put the detached connectors differently. Yeah, I got this this pinout from Cruise Control, so I'm just matching the same cable, same pinout that he uses. All right. Anybody have a recommended temp for very low gauge wire soldering? Every time I do wire, when I do quads and stuff, I have thin wire that I'm working with, the temp for my solder seems to be so high that it melts the plastic back on the wires. usually I just live with it. I'm curious to see if maybe you should like melt the solder to its melting temp and then like tin the wire, tin the tip, and then reduce the temp or something. These cup joints on the connector. Yeah, you sort of have to like get the tip of the iron in there and get the whole rod heated up without melting the adapter itself as well. Yeah, aviator connectors are keyed with 1, 2, 3, and 4. But there isn't, because they're not for any specific kind of wire or for any specific kind of connector. They don't specify, and they come in like 2, 3, 4, 6, 8. They come in all sizes with different amounts of pins for doing whatever your purpose is. I think when you look to buy these online, they're not always called aviator connectors. They're often called mil spec, like military spec connectors. Aha, I was wondering why my soldering iron wasn't on. Not plugged in. Yeah, Suichiro. The one that I'm using today is a GX12. GX16 is the slightly bigger one that you use with wider diameter cabling and larger paracord. My sponge is dry. I'm so well prepared. Let me wet my sponge. And I return. I return moist. Now, I do like having the Game Boy here, but I am very conscientious of the fact that I am carrying molten solder over it, and that would be a clip and a half. Yeah, Switchero, I've decided to use GX12 for my cables because that's my preference. But when I make cables for other people, I'll use GX16. I'll also have YC8 as well. This is basically me going through the learning process after watching heaps of videos, doing some cable repairs, running, building my own audio cables. And so this is my first time doing any kind of custom USBs stuff. Now, I've done it again. I need blue tack. BRB for the blue tack. I really need to learn to mute my mic when I put my headphones down. Yeah, I am... This won't be coiled, because it's too short, this end. Although... Thanks for the follow, Boo Tada. This one probably won't be coiled because it's too short. This is essentially going to be going sort of from the cable to my hands. And I don't think I want to have the coil pulling in and out with the Xbox controller. Yeah, Boota, I'm making, this is my first ever go at making a USB, custom USB cable. I've made other cables in the past. Now, if I put the paracord in the blue tack will forever be in the paracord. I should use my helping hands. I didn't want to have this giant bulky thing sitting in the middle of my stream. What I should do is buy some helping hands. Yeah, that's going to be impossible for anyone to see what I'm even doing. You know what I can do? That's not going to work either. I was going to say that I could seal the two halves of the butt and then blue tack it in. If it's tight enough, it would work. Then I can just undo it and move it around. What's your feeling about the alpaca switches? I haven't had the opportunity to try the alpaca switches just yet. I have Topra and Xylence Box Royals, Gat Yellows in the current boards that I'm using. I also have some of the Drop Holy Pandas on the way to go into my heavy metal keyboard. And I have some C3 Tangerines that I requested from the man, the legend, Evan Hong, a Melbourne maker who runs a business called Hong Hobbies, and he does switch modding for the community and spends a lot of time and effort working out what the best lubes are for the best switches. If you're in Australia, even if you're not in Australia, if you're just curious about Krytox 205GO, etc., what all the numbers mean, and grease versus oil, he is definitely the man. What game cart do I have in the Game Boy? I have nothing. this is on the stream because last night my father-in-law messaged me because he had some keyboards for me, which I have off to the side of the stream, and once I get around to actually finishing this cable, I'm going to bring those keyboards out because they're pretty special, pretty rare, and they're a really good example of a fantastic Switch. And so I want to do a little sound test on those. The Game Boy's on the stream because this has not been turned on for probably 20 years, and I'm going to throw some batteries into it, and we'll see if this Game Boy loads. And if this Game Boy loads, I'm going to start looking for games, and probably do rig up some kind of game capture system somehow. I don't know. Can this be used? I don't know. I'm curious to see if I can game capture Game Boy and play OG Game Boy games. What if I did vintage Keebs, custom cables, PCs, and retro gaming? Oh, it feels so good. I don't know if you're keen for a clack. I could use an emulator, but wouldn't it be way more fun to like see me playing like this, and you can see the game screen? Alright. Let me know if you can hear background noise on my mic over the music. I did have a noise compression filter on earlier, but I found that it was cutting me out when I started to concentrate on soldering and my voice went quieter. It would cut out. Maybe I need to change my tip, I think, maybe. Maybe I should maybe change my tip. Oh, I know what it is. This is my really cheap solder. This is the ridiculously high temp stuff. That's why she doth not want to melt. Let's try 330. Let me know if you want me to try and zoom in on the pupper. But also, I want to finish this cable and get some Keeb stuff happening. And it's been 2 hours of me talking. Might have to use a different tip, I think. Does not want to flow. Scrape the connections. Oh, it's pretty big. Like, you can't see it very well, but I can see it fairly clearly with my vision. I do have a magnifying glass, but I think the issue I'm not having isn't that I can't see, it's that I'm having trouble getting this tip to transfer enough heat to the pin to actually get solder to flow. It's flowing fine on the tip. Hitting the tip isn't any trouble. The issue is, once I touch it to the pin isn't actually getting hot enough. I'm not getting enough heat transfer. I don't know if I can. Oh, can I? Yeah, that's very poor. Unfortunately, this is a webcam. If I had a microscope, sure. I'll give this a try. It's going to be a bit overkill. It's going to be the tip though, for sure. That worked. And yes, I'm fully aware I don't have a fan. I went out early this morning to JCar to try and get the step-up regulator that I needed to convert a PC fan to a USB fan, and unfortunately I would have to construct one. Ain't nobody got time for that. Yeah, I think I might have to swap the tip. It's challenging. Tinned. Maybe not tinned brilliantly. I know that multi-free would have opinions, I'm sure, and I'm happy to hold it up to the camera. Ultimately, the plan is to get better at this stuff. Oy. Yeah, let me do the safe thing. Iron off, iron away. Oh, look at that. That's some overflowing. Yeah, I'm gonna have to redo that for sure. Yeah. I'm gonna change the tip. They're shiny, but they should be like concave, right? Not round. And one of them's underflowed. Ah, okay. So I think that part of the problem was that it didn't come pre-tinned, and so it was getting very difficult heat transfer. And once it had something in there, then it flowed very easily. Alright, cool. Might need to strip more back, actually. Now the problem is that I've closed this. This is where I need to get myself a set of just standalone helping hands. Challenge, yeah, the challenge of the wrong tip, I think, is the problem. It's going to be very, very hot. Hopefully this tip is a bit more effective. Progress. Posture check. Yep, okay. I'll sit up. Alright, what are the numbers? 1, 2, 3, 4. My cable is hooked around the mic, that's what that rattling was. My apologies. Alright, so power and power in and power out at the top. You know what I do have? I don't have helping hands, but I do have tweezers. Yeah, after 2.5 hours, it's starting to look like a cable. Alright, so alright. I think when you're doing keyboards, definitely it's easy to see what's happening. You're doing a cable, definitely not. Something to think about for next time. 3 and 2. Alright, so we want white close to me and green further away. Alright, making progress. Yeah, if I try to zoom it, it doesn't zoom far enough, you can't really see anything. I think that what I'll probably do is just have another, maybe another camera or something like that, or I'll figure it out so that I can do the zoomage. Do I dare show you the solder joins? Need to use the blue tack to get rid of the blue tack. Also need to shrink this paracord. Alright, so I'm definitely going to be making myself a bunch of cables to improve this process. I'll show you and then I'll try to improve it and we'll see. Where's the good side? And the bad side. All right. Alright. That's not tight, I can tighten that. Where's my sword? My trusty sword. Two and a half hours to make half a cable. It's alright. Alright, so things learned. Need helping hands, because blue tack is fine, but there's too many small spaces for the blue tack to get stuck in. You don't need heat shrink on a GX12 with paracord 550. Heat shrink should not have labels on it. I would definitely call this a alpha cable. But I think it looks pretty cool. I think given how long that took me, I'll make the other half off stream so that I can just be in the zone and I can bring out the vintage keyboards. Thanks to everybody for sticking around while I learned how to make a cable for the first time. Definitely would like blue heat shrink. Might see if I can go about cutting that off at some point and going with blue. I think it's a pretty decent match. Put these connectors back together and then grab the vintage Keebs out. But yeah, in essence, once I make the other half of the cable, or could I just... No, that's not going to work. Once I make the other half of the cable, connect it to the PC and test it out. Be nice if I could plug it in and test that the full thing works. But I did set a limit myself for 3-hour streams. I think it's important for your own health to set healthy limits like that. So I'm going to move this stuff aside. I'm going to grab some batteries. We're going to turn the Game Boy on. See if the Game Boy works. If the Game Boy's working, that's exciting. I might see if I can pick up a copy of a game somehow. And straight after that, let's have a look at some vintage keyboards. Okay. Do we have any... Who are the Keeb fans in the chat? Who's left? Who has stuck around through the arduous 2.5 hour cable making? This Game Boy I was saying earlier in the stream probably hasn't been turned on for 20 years. And I thought I could just take 5 minutes, throw some batteries in it, and see if we can turn it on. Feed the dog. We'll do momentarily both on. Hales will get right on that. Yeah, I just added a bunch of new chat rewards and things like that. Feel free to use them. I did have push-ups, someone redeemed it, but that's not going to happen today. I need to adjust the values because too many people can maybe do push-ups too fast, and we realized that you could maybe do 200 push-ups. Okay. Oh, you have a bunch of games? Mate. Alright, so if it turns on, I'll get some games from you, and I'll set up some kind of stream camera situation. Oh, Tetris. Wow. Alright, yep. Crash Test Dummies was such a good game. So, I've just realized that fantastically what happens with the pet cam is that my camera just fell over. The pet cam's actually been frozen because it stopped a while ago. So it looks like you're just watching a very cute sleeping puppy, but it's actually a still image. I've shattered the illusion. You've still got your OG Game Boy? Game Boy Color? Nice. For some reason I was waiting for a game then. I was like, in my head I was like, I'm waiting for the game to arrive from you. Alright. Do we zoom it in on the screen? That's as much zoom as I can give. Three, 2, 1. No. Most anticlimactic on-stream event of my life. Alright. Definitely put the batteries in the right way. Batteries were charging. Well, that's a problem to solve off stream then. Unfortunate. I do have a Game Boy printer though. Unsub? Yes, that's unsub worthy. Well, now it gives me something to do. I can try and see if this Game Boy can be repaired, and if it can, then I can play some games on stream. Oh, you do? Those are valuable. I think if you have the Game Boy, the camera, the printer, paper, and all the cables and everything, it's like $1,500 or something. And now the thing I really wanted to get to the whole stream. I'm looking forward to doing more build streams. in the interim, I'll keep doing some cables, see if there's other things I can tinker with and fix. But here, I have an A9MO330, which is an old retro Apple keyboard from the Apple IIgs. Helen's dad used to repair tech and acquired a significant amount of cool things. And when I saw these, I just had to hold on to them and put them on the stream, get a recording of it. The switches that are in them are SKCM Alps switches. I don't know which variant exactly because I haven't pulled them apart and had a look just yet, but I did clean the switches on this keyboard, and those ones were quite difficult to find. I believe that these might be Monterey tactile switches, which have a different housing, quite difficult to open. But the mechanisms inside these switches are somewhat highly sought after, and if you look on eBay, you'll find people selling packs of 60-something switches for $300 if they're in pristine condition. I'll put the mic down shortly on top of each one, and I'll type, and we'll do a little sound comparison. It's an interesting feeling comparison between the Xylants that I have in this board and the Box Royals that we have in another one in the house, because I think that the Box Royals do probably the best job of all the tactile switches that I've tried at coming close to what Alps achieve with their tactile, the mechanism inside the switch. It's somewhat crunchy but snappy without getting in the way of typing. And I think if you can get an Alps keyboard that is in good condition, that's been looked after well, it's been stored properly, you could have a very, very nice keyboard. They are hard to find though. The three examples that I have here, I would say probably range from like a 9 out of 10 in terms of the switch feel, in terms of how good they are. They don't feel scratchy on this one. They're pretty smooth. They feel pretty much like what I would expect them to feel on a good board. Yeah, the different colors is from UV damage, because the plastics for the keycaps and the plastics for the case and the spacebar are different. I believe these are ABS and this is PBT, and so PBT will yellow. That's why your Super Nintendo and other retro consoles and computers and stuff tended to yellow. And so this one was stored, I believe, wrapped, and so it wasn't exposed to light long enough to affect the ABS, only long enough to affect the PBT. As opposed to this one, which wasn't wrapped at all, if I'm correct. And so all of it has pretty much yellowed evenly. And I'm thinking about I'm looking into and thinking about a retro bright booth, setting up some UV lights, a small tub and some alfoil and whatnot to basically bath these and bring them back to what they would have looked like originally, which would be very much closer to this color here. And if I can achieve that, then these would be very, very nice boards to just have on display or sell if that's what he wants to do with them. Alright, let's do a little typing test. Let's start with the one that I would consider to be probably not in the best condition. Cool. I'm looking forward to going back and looking at the stream after the fact because I can't hear anything that's coming through the microphone. But I know that it sounds really nice in person. If you're into that vintage keyboard sound, it's a very nice, crunchy, tactile keyboard. Cool. We're pretty much at 3 hours. I did say that I would set myself a limit. Didn't get to do all the things that I wanted to do. I'm going to do that off stream though, test everything, and then I'll come back with another stream and be better at doing the cables and can do more in a shorter amount of time, including coiling, because I'm looking forward to doing coiling. I've done it a couple of times and I've learned some new techniques to get it to be stronger. But that'll be it. Unfortunately the Game Boy didn't work. Otherwise I'd say Game Boy games next stream. Thanks for watching. New builds coming soon, hopefully. Bothord, hehe. Hey Jacob Banana. Just shutting down the stream actually, you're a touch late. Thanks for following, mate. Appreciate it. Yeah, just shutting down the stream now. I will be streaming Wednesday night. Well, the schedule will be in your time zone if you look down below. Going to be lubing and cleaning these keyboards and seeing if we can get them to just improve the sound a little bit. Doing some custom cables and custom keyboard built soon. Thanks for watching.